Good morning. Thank you very much. Is that okay? I want to thank the staff of OrthoWorld for this wonderful meeting and also for having the courage to invite me, because I'm probably not your normal OMTAC speaker, and I tend to stir up hornets' nests. Most recently, if you caught my 8 minutes of fame on the John Stossel show, like Stossel, I believe that it's individuals and private corporations, not the government, that makes the world better. Well, I had the audacity to apply that to medical care and talk about free market medicine. Predictably, every big government guy in the world called up the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons to complain about me personally. Now, I spent 10 years in the Navy, and most of that was with Marine Corps Aviation, and those guys taught me a very valuable lesson, and that is, when you're catching flack, don't worry too much about it. It just means you're over the target. So today, I'm going to talk to you about orthopedics and the vampire economy. Now, I'm not an economist, but about 5 years ago, I became very nervous. I was in a big solo private practice. I had 7 employees. I had built an office complex. I owned part of a surgery center. I had one son going off to private university, another son going off to private medical school, and I was doing 9 to 12 major spine surgeries a week, plus then 8 nights a month I was taking level 1 orthopedic trauma call. So I was meeting myself coming and going with diminishing returns. And at every level of government, I saw negative economic pressures. Things were not looking good on the horizon. And I'm just going to digress here for a minute and say that, you know, when they tell you that there are these 2% Medicare cuts across the board for doctors, it's very important for you guys in the orthopedic industry to understand that that isn't even across the board. I don't know what they mean by across the board. That sounds like it's 2% for everybody. They may actually add money to a neurologist, but they can really cut us. And in one year, when this 2% cut came out, the ophthalmologist, one of the ophthalmologist codes and one of my codes got cut 50%. So I was working more and more for less and less, and I decided I needed to educate myself. So I studied what I could of economics and history, and basically today I'm going to share with you what I learned for myself. Now, I will make a disclaimer here. This is, you know, like they always say, my ideas are my own, don't blame OrthoWorld staff. But also, I'm not here to bash the current administration, the past administration, or any particular political party or group, because quite frankly, there's plenty of blame to go around, and this problem started almost 100 years ago. I am going to be kind of blunt here because, and I talked to April about this, about my topic, and should we talk about economics? I said, I can talk about economics, but I'm going to have to be rather blunt. And she said, well, you know, Dr. Hieb, we've read what you've written. If we didn't want blunt, we wouldn't have invited you. So, but it's time for blunt talk, because when you're in a sinking ship, it's not time for nicey-nice and euphemisms, and I keep waiting for some politician to speak truth to economic evil, but in the absence of that, I'm going to leap into the breach here. Now, I want to start by saying something about the state of American medicine. It's been my privilege to meet you all and to really see the other side of orthopedics, this huge infrastructure that has contributed to what we do as surgeons. You know, together, I can say without hesitation, in America, we've created the finest orthopedic surgery in the world. So I'm offended, and I think you should be offended, when I keep hearing these pointy-headed guys in the media tell us we have lousy medical care in America. In fact, the World Health Association ranks us 37th behind the Sudan. Now, are you kidding me? I mean, not to offend any Sudanese, but all you need to know about quality health care is where people go who vote with their feet. We've caught 2 premiers of Canada, Danny Williams being one of the last ones, and maybe there were more we didn't catch, a whole bunch of politicians and bigwigs sneaking across the Canadian border in the dark of night to come here for their health care. If government universal health care was so great, why didn't they stay home? When the former Sultan of Brunei needed his cancer treatment, he didn't go to England or Finland or Sweden or any darlings of the government set. He came to the United States. I know, my friend at MD Anderson took care of him. Now, he could have afforded to go anywhere, but he knew that his survival depended on it. Now, there was an article written a few years ago in the Lancet Journal of Oncology, and it looked at survival of cancer in the major industrialized nations. And it found, when they looked at cancer, now this is the British Journal of Cancer, and they must have hated having to admit this, but when they looked at cancer around the world, and they looked at all the different types of cancer, in every way they looked at it, the United States had the best survival rate. And it wasn't just chump change, okay? If you're a man in America today, on average, you have a 66% 5-year survival from cancer. Now, we know some is worse and some is better, and my husband's a 30-year survivor, but on average, it's 66%. Now look at Britain. God love them, after 50 years of the National Health Service, they have a 45% 5-year survival, which is about as bad as the old Soviet Union when you had cats dead in the hallway of their hospitals. So that's not good. In Europe, although they joke about Britain being the sick old man of Europe, Europe's not much better at 47%, and all the Commonwealth nations. So basically, you know, when you're sick, who are you going to call? Well, Boris Yeltsin knew who to call. When he needed his open heart surgery, he got 2 American-trained surgeons. He went to a hospital only for the Politburo. Now, keep in mind, he had a free, universal, government-run health system available to him. That was good enough for the gray masses, but not good enough for Boris Yeltsin. You know, you're going to see that today. Even then, with all this, he knew what Ayn Rand wrote was true, that you can't trust your life to a man whose life you've throttled. And in the Soviet Union, they paid their surgeons less than bus drivers. So he hired Dr. DeBakey, who was 95 at the time, I think, to fly over to the Soviet Union and supervise his surgery. And he did well. Now, I'm a free market guy, and I'm always surprised when I hear people who talk about free market, claim to be free market capitalists, but they can't think their way out of the medical problems of today without invoking more government. Now, you know, government is the prime example of Ronald Reagan's aphorism that when government's the problem, more government's not the answer. Now, I've had a chance to see your world. I'm going to show you a little of my world in today's governmental structure.